PCT's public relations haven't always been very good. To have one close geographical link with the McCarthy and Stone development may be regarded as a misfortune. To have two, as in South Woodham and Malden, looks like carelessness. It's also poor PR to pay so much for premises when there's a cash crisis. Particularly when one assumes that this must be adding value to the McCarthy and Stone flats. 70 grand a year would make a real difference to the health of the residents. Here's a cutting brought in by a patient, and it rather looks as if the money would buy us 7 bypasses or 10 hips. On the other hand, we could have 3.5 nurses or a salaried dentist or doctor, give or take a few quid. And as I say, the cost of the new surgery must be set against the glut of property that's available in the town centre at the moment. Some of it at really quite competitive prices. This is the town square with its little market. And through the arch, the white health clinic building. And this is where we're headed, down here. Market Square, seen from a distance. And here in the town centre, the old post office. Closing down. The big shop, Babes in the Wood, you saw earlier, closed down, should I say. Ruskin Crafts, closed down. And through here to Clement's house practice. Looking at the old post office again here. And then through down to the town square, the Astor clock. And more unoccupied property. This one is in the same block as a dental surgery, which is on the 4th floor. This large space. Looking inside, they seem to be dividing a large shop into two. This then is the town square, Queen Elizabeth II Square, with its opticians. There's the clock, bandstand, pharmacy. So not a bad place for a practice, assuming they could park. This building here belongs to Asda, was offered to the NHS. They turned it down, and it's now a George clothes showroom. And here's the other property. I phoned the agent. This one, 2,200 square feet, is going about 27,500 rental. And the smaller one for about 17,000 per annum. Another view here, concourse. Yet another shop here, empty. And back to the town square. This massive building was offered to the PCT at one time, and it could have had it for a knockdown price. There is, needless to say, a lot of haggling to be done around the asking price, given the amount of vacant property. And the people who make the deals obviously take into account the reputation of the person moving in, whether they're likely to go bust, how long they're going to take the lease for. And whilst the NHS may have its problems, it's not likely to go bust in the immediate future. So one would have thought the PCT could do a better deal. Particularly when you bear in mind that this area isn't immune from the problems that the rest of the NHS has at the moment. Here's a story from a local paper. NHS in chaos as Project Axed. The Colchester General Hospital PFI project has collapsed. This then is not a job for management consultants. What we need is someone to manage the profligate waste. Whitfield Surgery and Greenwood Surgery at their height catered for about 12,000 patients between them. That's about 3 times as many patients as there are at the new surgery. And of course the combined cost to the NHS, to the taxpayer of these two buildings, was significantly less than the cost of the new surgery building. So this is just one more mess of the PCT's making. Moving on then, it's poor PR for the PCT to open up getting involved with the Hoppit surgery when it was already fighting for credibility in Southwood and Ferrers. It's left the Danbury surgery having to fight a valiant public relations campaign in order to try and undo some of the damage caused by the Hoppit saga. And then there's the car thing. The blue Audi belonging to another PCT employee. I may be naive, but there always seems to be money for this sort of thing when the NHS is in financial crisis and the PCT is in financial crisis and you're asking everybody to tighten their belts. And you're deliberately setting out to deny a group of patients basic health care, access to a woman doctor, etc., etc. You might also say it's poor public relations for a chief executive to take so many holidays, whilst making it next to impossible for one of his GPs to take one. You might say, well, it's up to him what he does with his money. Who are we to tell him what to do? I suppose the answer to that is that financial constraints make it impossible at Greenwood Surgery with locums at £500 a day. So from the patient's perspective, this results in a GP who's more tired and more stressed than he should be. And this in turn will make it more likely that he'll make mistakes. And more likely, and this is perhaps the point, that he'll throw in the towel. Most of the difficulties that Greenwood Surgery has faced have been to do with the inadequate budget. And here's a look at the Alden South Chelmsford Guide to Services in 2003, and here's the cake and how it's divided up. And you can see that rather a large proportion of the cake goes on management costs, about 1.2 million, and only 1.8 million goes on general practice. And when I pointed out to the PCT that it wouldn't be long before their administrative costs would exceed what was going into general practice, they started producing the data in a different way, adding the 10.1 million drugs budget to the 1.8 million general practice budget to make it less obvious what was going on.